Okay, we'll call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock. It's the Parks and Rec Advisory Board on January 16th. Can you please call the roll?
Miss Ashley?
Yes.
Mr. Bricker?
Here.
Miss Cunningham?
Here.
Mr. Dalton?
Here.
Mr. Hayward?
Here.
Miss McWinney?
Here.
Mr. Rush? Miss Thompson?
Here.
Councilman Browning?
Here.
Vice Chairwoman Hibinger?
Here.
Chairwoman Lash?
Here. Can I have a motion to excuse Mr. Rush?
My motion.
So move.
Can you take roll, please?
Miss Ashley?
Yes.
Mr. Bricker?
Yes.
Miss Cunningham?
Yes.
Mr. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Hayward?
Yes.
Miss McWinney?
Yes.
Miss Thompson?
Yes.
Councilman Browning?
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman Hibinger?
Yes.
Chairwoman Lash?
Yes. It's been a while since we have been together. So can I have a motion to approve the minutes from our November 21st meeting? And just as a reminder, as long as you read them, you can vote. Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
A second.
Okay, call roll, please.
Miss Ashley?
Yes.
Yes, sorry. Mr. Bricker?
Yes.
Miss Cunningham?
Yes.
Mr. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Hayward?
Yes.
Miss McWinney?
Yes.
Miss Thompson?
Yes.
Councilman Browning?
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman Hibinger?
Yes.
Chairwoman Lash?
Yes. Okay, we have a full agenda tonight, but we'll start with any public comments outside of the DYAA and pickleball. That's what everyone's here for? Okay, then we will move on to the discussion of the pickleball quotes.
I think it was at the October meeting, the pickleball group came and they had some questions about expanding our pickleball courts in Delaware. And so what we've done is some research, and I know two of the options we looked at were Mingo and Smith on expanding the courts. When we looked at Mingo, the problem with Mingo is that park is overcrowded in the summer times already. I mean, we have a lot of events going on there with swimming, baseball, and soccer in there. So what we wanted to look at is we focused a little bit more on Smith Park because we have some unutilized tennis courts out there that we could look at refurbishing and basically setting up to do pickleball with a little bit more. So some of the items that we would need would be we looked at getting windscreens, painting the lines. With the windscreens, we'd need additional posts because the fencing that's there now will not support windscreens just because of the strength of that wind. So we need some additional fence posts. And then also lighting of the two courts. Now the lighting of the two courts is the really expensive portion of this. And that cost was about $45,000 to $55,000 for just lighting two of the courts. Just because lighting is expensive. And I know we wanted to look at that, I think, when we last spoke. So, but with the windscreens, we've estimated, and we also looked at with Cassie, who had some old windscreens that we looked at, but I don't think they would be salvageable for this. I don't think we could use them. So we looked at getting new ones, and that was that cost was $1,475. Painting lines on the court was $2,100. The additional fence posts were $5,840. So for about almost $10,000, we could set up with that plan that the group brought. I think you were converting 2 tennis courts to, was it 6 pickleball courts? So that's kind of what we focused on was making 6 pickleball courts out there. And so for $10,000, I think that would be something that would be doable. Now we don't have that in our budget this year, but if the group, was able to fund that or anything, we could look at, speeding that process up. But if that's something we want to move forward with, that's something we can look at, for 2019. So I wanted to get those numbers out there and then also kind of find out about lighting of 2 courts if that's something we want to pursue even with that large cost. So I don't know if there's anyone from the group that wants. We had an estimate of $45,000 to $55,000, and that's LED lights. Yeah. And we could get more estimates. Yeah. Yeah. If that's something you really feel strongly about that we want to include in this, that we could definitely revisit that. Yes.
Did you?
If we speak, we'll probably have to come up and up on the courts there, or up on the the stage up front here. She'll need your name and address too.
Gary Meckler, 174 Griswold. The other thing we were interested in was resurfacing the courts in blue limestone. Did you address that at all?
No, but would resurfacing get those courts to what you wanted out there?
It'd be better than they are now. I mean, right now it's just asphalt.
Okay.
So there's, it's lacking the typical surface that's on a tennis court, whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
And so the balls bounce pretty funny. And a lot of people just don't like playing there because of that.
Okay. Yeah, that's something we can definitely look at. I just wasn't sure if that was, because there's only the 2 courts there. But we can definitely look into that.
I mean, unless you were going to do something else with that, if you put courts in at Smith. I didn't.
Would you want both, or would you looking at one or the other?
I mean, personally, I'd like both, but right now, we put up with those 2 courts at blue limestone, but they're really hard to play on.
Okay.
I think the presentation from earlier indicated preferable to have everything in one spot, I thought was the goal. And I think blue limestone isn't there. I think there's some competing basketball courts and there's other stuff going in there. It's a beautiful park with a small space.
Well, they just have the pickleball courts there. But yeah, you also talked about hosting tournaments possibly, and that blue limestone venue wouldn't really work too much for that, I don't think.
Okay.
Ted, can I just clarify that we're clear on this? When the group came last time, they were asking for additional courts because we only currently have the 2 at Blue Limestone, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And so this quote is, you're saying the $10,000 would give them 6 more courts?
Yeah,
that's without lighting.
Without lighting, we'd repurpose 2 of the tennis courts at Smith. I mean, they'd still be used as they could be used as tennis courts, but based on the concept they brought, we'd paint new lines in there, and that basically the upfront cost that it would take to do that is what we were looking at.
But the timing on this wouldn't be until 2019 based on budget?
Yeah, so we don't have it in our budget right now at this point. So that's something we could look at if we wanted to pursue this, looking at doing that in 2019. Or if you wanted to, if there's funds available or grants we could look at, we could also go down that road also.
One of the things that I picked up from too was that they were facing the wrong direction. Am I right? Did I hear that right? One of the things that I'm connected to is there's grant money out there for community tennis, pickleball, 10 and under tennis court lines through the United States Tennis Association. With me being on the board for the Midwest, I could find out if there's grant money that we could apply for to maybe do some correct resurfacing as far as, what that layer of Dynaturf should be underneath the tennis court, the surface itself.
Okay.
So I can check into that.
Yeah, that'd be great, I think. I think one of the other questions brought up was indoor tennis at the YMCA, or indoor pickleball at the YMCA, painting those lines. And, Jeremy and I have talked a little bit, and I'll let Jeremy speak to it more, but we wanted to explore that option too, because I think that was one of the other options you guys brought up too. So do you want to discuss that a little bit and why the difficulty in putting lines in there?
Yeah, well, currently there are basketball, volleyball, there's 3 courts that run in there now. And to resurface that floor means you have to strip it, take all the other lines off, and then relay all the lines again before you can just put lines down. It's not as simple as just going in and painting lines on the gym floor, which is a huge cost. So that's one of the reasons we've looked at throw down lines and other options to utilize in the gym.
On top of that, I might add, I'm an avid pickleball player, as most of you guys know, and I work for the Y, so I kind of see all these different sides of things. We already have a ton of lines that are already down, which are confusing. To add more lines on that gets more confusing. And then not only that, we set up pickleball in multiple configurations. So like today, we went from the 2 relaxed version to the 3 tight version. Some weeks, or some days we play on one side, some days we play on other sides. So when you put down the lines, it's like you're done. So, that's something to think about too. So, it would have to be a part of a bigger redoing of all of the lines in there. And it'd have to be really well thought out, because once they're down, you can't go back from 2 courts to 3 courts, kind of like we do right now, as you guys can play it or not. So, challenges overcome, but we still get out and play. We had, 20-some people there today.
Oh, okay. I wanted to add one more thing. I don't know if you did any research with Worthington, but they had just completed a project where they converted some tennis courts to pickleball. Is that where you got some of your information?
No, but I saw them. There's
Okay, because I talked to Darren down there, and it worked out really well. They converged the tennis courts, so just wanted to add that.
Inside or outside?
Outside.
Outside.
Yeah. I think they're down by the Old Tangy River Trail, down in there. So.
Ted, if this is going to become a 2019 budget item, how's that? What's the process? What happens? What makes that happen?
If we're going down the right track and these items listed is what you're kind of looking for, we will kind of get these numbers updated and make sure that these numbers are correct. We may get more than one estimate, so to make sure we have the right numbers for sure, and then program that into our budget for 2019 if possible, if that's something we want to do. I mean, just by the showing tonight, it seems like it's supported really well in the community. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question on the budget part of it. Can you phase in, since some of it is in 2019 budget, is there any money for 2018 budget? And if so, can we phase in part of this and say maybe do the courts and the nets or the shield and then put the lights in the next year? I mean, I also have another question, but that was my first question in the budget part.
Do we need to come up? Yeah.
Can you just shout your name out?
My name is Bernie Marshall, and I'm on Silversmith Lane in Delaware.
Okay.
What's your address, actual?
1451 Silversmith.
Thank you.
Sorry, I got a voice of hearing.
I can't say for sure that could be in the 2018 budget, but there's a possibility at the end of the year if there's some, if we can find some money in the budget that we could maybe phase some of those items in and get some of it in 2018. But I wouldn't count on that.
Okay, I also have another question about the lines on the gym floor. Has the Delaware line checked with Marion? Because they have multiple lines and it's less confusing than putting those funky things that you can slip on the floor. These, we have a lot of artificial lines that we have to imagine where they're at. And the one in Marion, yes, you have to kind of get your brain in gear, but you can do it and it is possible. So I'm not all convinced that having extra lines is going to be more confusing. I'm really not.
I mean, I can speak to that. I play there quite a bit. It's really nice. It's the way their court is set up. They have one basketball court going one way, and they have a volleyball court. And those are the only lines that they have besides pickleball. We have 3 different basketball courts, and we have the volleyball. So there's more lines already on our court than there are even with the pickleball lines at Marion. Sure. On top of that, if we were to do lines, in my mind, we would, for people who played there, we wouldn't try to use the lines that are already there because you're already playing in the net. We would take them off of the net and make really nice big courts and lay them out into that open space, right? So, but then when you think about that, that's all brand new lines. So, when we talk about multi-use space, you have to look at every single facet of everything that's going on. And so, that's where, we have to look at both sides and everything. And it's not like we can just go out there tomorrow with a camera, $20 paint to do, and I think that $10,000 was the last revarnish of the floor.
And that was just revarnishing,
Right,
not stripping it, taking the lines up
Right.
and putting the stuff back down.
Right. So we'd be, potentially looking at, if we're gonna do lines, we might say, okay, can we remove some lines? We would probably have to remove all the lines to make them so they all look right. So it's a big project.
You're
And
looking at the
pickleball-
gym probably being shut down for over a month.
The increased surface your course every year though.
Yeah, that's resurfacing.
Right, but
Not-
adding a couple lines, I mean, I've been in a lot of lines.
Mhm.
There's multiple lines over there, so I always find it difficult to understand that. But it's just the way it's set up right now, it's just, invisible lines, media overplay. So he's not gonna get the competitive people that we really want to pull with. So I mean, we'll look for other options. So anyway.
The surface at Mingo Recreation Center, that score, is that, are you able to pickleball on that surface? Is that possible?
I'm doing tennis in there. It's fine.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that's something else we could explore, but I wasn't sure about the surface because it's not a hardwood floor in there. It's a sport court surface.
You can plan it. The complaint you get is it's a little bit harder on joints than wood.
Yeah,
I mean, it's better than
definitely.
concrete, but
Yeah,
when you're, so.
because during the day in the wintertime, that's court is pretty much available, I think, isn't it? Okay,
And put your lines down.
okay. I mean, that's another option we could look at too, if you thought that might work.
Jordan Merker.
I'll tell you what, can we do this, and I hate to make you do it, but if you raise your hand and then our chair will call on you, which you can come up please, and then say your name and address. That way, just so I can make sure, because this is a recorded meeting and it is public, so I want to make sure nobody's voice is not heard correctly.
Sure, thank you. Jordan Markford, 400 Benjamin Street in Delaware. I guess my caution would be, I think it's great that everybody is willing to try something, and this group of people will play on just about anything. We'll take what we can get. But we tried that with Blue Limestone, and it wasn't really the experience we wanted, so people started going other places. People, instead of playing at Blue Limestone, they're going to Mingo and drawing their own lines on there. So we invested at Blue Limestone. It wasn't a waste. People are still using it, but other people, the more competitive people, the group that we'd like to include, not everybody's able to use it. Same thing with the Y, right? So there's a lot of people who are using it and would like something a little bit better, but other people are going to Worthington, going to Marion, going to other places. That's all.
So it sounds to me like it might be better to try to be patient and get what you want maybe at Smith as opposed to maybe spending money on patching things elsewhere. Is that what I'm hearing correctly?
Yeah, I would, I guess we're just trying to do it right wherever we're going to do it, right? And if there are other options for lighting, for instance, at Smith, I think that I would rather see us wait for that than do something, if it's a phased approach, I think that's great. Do the surface 1 year, do the lights another year, but have that vision in mind of how we're going to, address all the needs. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Ted, do you know off the top of your head what the investment was for the Blue Limestone? I mean, did we just put the lines down there? Is that what that was? I don't recall what the details were.
No, I don't know off the top of my head what that investment was, but it was a basketball court that was converted to pickleball courts. So.
So it looks like the Y, we explored the indoor, there's more to come, but this quote is for the Smith Park. What do we need to do for the next steps then? Looks like, we budget's not till 2019, so we're getting more quotes.
Yeah, well, I think we'll finalize those quotes, and I think maybe we can get, if I can get like kind of a chair of this group, this pickleball court that I can work with, to maybe we work on this and then see what we can come up with as far as the Mingo facility and the Smith courts and see if that would work and how taking that to the next step. Who is the contact? Who would you like? Who wants to be that? I think that would be the next step is we can continue to work on this and pursue that, the Smith courts. Sounds like something we want to continue to do, and I can work with this group and we can keep working on that. Yeah, pursue the grant, Steve. That information would be great if we could keep looking
Let
into
me see what
that.
I can find out. I have a meeting, when is it? The end of February.
Okay,
So we have a Midwest meeting that weekend in Indianapolis, so I'll talk to people and see what I can find out. And I mean, I know there's grant money also for tennis lines and things like that for community tennis, so I'm sure there's stuff out there for pickleball too.
okay. Is it Dawn?
Yes.
I will, are you the best person to contact then? Okay. You've been voted already? Okay. Okay. Well, I think we can continue to work with this group and pursue this more and keep our board up to date on what happens there.
Okay. Anything else regarding pickleball before we move on then? We're going to table it for now as you work directly with Dawn is the chair, and we'll look at some more options then. Okay, then we'll move on to the presentation by Art Miller regarding the DYAA.
Thank you, everybody. For the record, my name is Art Miller. I live at 287 Rock Mill Street in Delaware.
Can we give everyone just a second? We have a lot departing, so we can
Sure.
make sure we can hear you.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, thank you. Have our full attention.
For the record, perhaps Tanya and Ray might also kind of sign in here since they're also officers and will chime in a touch.
Tanya Ray, 394 Benjamin Street.
And Ray West, 633 Churchview Court.
I'm sorry, what was that again?
633 Churchview Court.
Thank you.
Good to go. I sent to Ted and Elaine sent to you a pretty lengthy report. And on the one hand, I apologize for that, realizing that it's difficult to expect any of you to get all the way through it. By the same token, DYAA, as many of you know, Delaware Youth Athletic Association, has run the Delaware soccer program since 1975. So there's a long history, and I've been fortunate enough to be one of the first 4 guys on a handshake who made all that happen many decades ago. And perhaps not so fortunate to have chaired the board and run the program for since, I don't know, 35 plus years. Tanya is with us this evening as well because she is, I'll say, heir apparent to running DYA and has been with me in recent discussions and meetings with Ted and Jackie and others over the past few years to assure continuity of management because, believe it or not, I do intend to retire from this someday in the near future. Ray is here because Ray is significant to DYAA as a board member. He holds the position of community liaison. So it's very appropriate, I think, for this discussion and others that might follow for Ray to be here as well. He's also our development officer, doing a lot of the sponsorship work that keeps us going year after year. I guess I will start by saying, did any of you have a chance to at least skim it and get a feel for why we're here? Because I don't want to, I'm real sensitive to your time, but I wanted to put out kind of the history here. And it is no secret, and everybody's discussed this in recent years, that back in the earliest time when the Y was being constructed, I personally, on behalf of DYA, was asked to be a part of the task force, and even before that, the levy planning committee to launch this thing, and was given, as I stated in that report, a very, very specific direction as to the why in Delaware, Ohio will never compete with any existing programs whatsoever. So there was no inherent conflict of interest to any of the programs. And it was on that basis that our board said, we're all in, let's go get this thing passed. And so you know the history. For the first time, we got that thing through. We collectively in our community got that through by a few votes here or there, and everybody wants to take claim because of professional jealousy for we were the ones who got it through. And you'll certainly hear me state that I think we got that through, but I'm not here to talk about the past so much as I am here to talk about the future. What happened, for a number of reasons that I talked about in the report, is a decision was made to run a soccer program in competition with DYAA. Not specifically, because these are all good people and we've all worked together for years and years, but because of one particular and then two particular individuals who had some inaccurate information, a conclusion was made that the DYA soccer program was too expensive and certainly more costly than any others around, and blah, blah, blah. If you've seen the report, I've brought some fact to the table there in terms of showing you area costs versus our costs. So the arrangement was that I went to a meeting with several and said, you know what, let's give this a try, because there may in fact be an audience who wants to play just one day a week, who is okay with the t-shirts, who is okay with $40. I think maybe at that time it was even 30 or so. But anyway, less of a fee, and by the same token, less of a commitment, if you will, than DYA's rec program, which plays twice a week, for example. Anyway, we said let's give it a go, but I was offended personally. I mean, a lot of us have invested a lot in growing this thing over many, many years. We've been proud to serve, 1,100 kids each season, and it's been a very, very nice contributing program to Parks and Rec and to our community. So after I got over the kind of the blindsided part of this, I thought, let's give it a go and kind of field test this thing, and let's get back and revisit it to see. And the magic word was, has DYAA in any way been harmed? And so I guess what I tried to bring to you in this report was that, yes, now it's been a few years since 2015, and we can quantify a couple of things that I had said and shared with a number of people. I don't think any of you at that time, but Gary Milner and City Council at that time for sure. We were all instrumental on the task force when this was all being discussed. But the bottom line is that, yes, DYAA has been harmed in a couple of ways. And when I say DYAA, I mean really the community. And I tried to list you several reasons why that were the case. Number one, that I have preached from day one, and I've grown up in the soccer world, incidentally, playing, coaching, running programs since I was 4 years old. This community is not large enough to successfully support two community-based soccer programs, recreational soccer programs. And I gave some history as to what happened when neighboring communities have attempted to do that. What happens is both programs are diluted, and the end result is neither one is at the level that they would both like to see for the other. So we've been talking and brainstorming about some ideas to present to you, not in specific tonight, although I do make a specific recommendation, but ideas where we think we can bring the best of both together and go back to where DYAA and the city work together famously, and probably the most wonderful partnership I've ever experienced. And I love working with Ted and those before Ted. I've worked with them for, as I say, 40 years. And it was just a marvelous thing for the sake of the community and for the sake of the kids. And as the sport just grew and grew and grew, we were there working and managing together, and kind of the rest is history. We've seen a decline. We've seen some harm in that. There's miscommunications. People go to the Y thinking they're signing up for DYAA. people come to DYA thinking they're signing up for the Y. So number one factor that I mentioned is kind of just the element of confusion. Another element that I quantified there was a misunderstanding way back when the program started, back in 15, in terms of the pricing, that DYA's costs are not at all that which a few people originally thought, and we just were puzzled as to why we weren't brought in to provide accurate information. Through no fault of anybody's, it just happened that way. Miscommunications, I'm willing to attribute it to that. The bottom line is, had all of the facts been known and had there been kind of the open dialogue that now Ted and Jackie and Jeremy and I and others are having, it wouldn't have gone this direction in the beginning. So in a way, I'm suggesting this is a discussion of, could we put Humpty Dumpty back together again for the benefit of a community who could potentially be weakened by not offering all the programs that soccer can bring at all different ages. In my summary proposal, I defined the problem and quantified it, and then I put before you a solution that we have, obviously we and our treasurer have spent a lot of time crunching numbers, because Jackie had indicated at our last meeting, Ted, I don't know, a few months ago, that City Council might consider not having two competing programs if DYA could bring its rates down. And this was before we had done the research to show that we don't really have to come down too far. We have to give you accurate numbers. But the bottom line in that summary is that, yes, DYA feels very comfortable maintaining the same quality of program in the same partnership and harmony with the city, where we cost share the use and the maintenance of the fields and equipment and all that to make it possible. And we feel we can do that through the law of large numbers. We can lower our fees back to where they were literally 30 years ago. FYI, Ray helped me on this. Ray does all of our sponsorship, but we reduced fees a few years ago, didn't we even? And I know way back when DYA was 1,100 strong per season, our fees were nil, because you're going to have to paint a line whether you have 2 people playing or 200 playing. So the cost is spread out through law of large numbers. And I'm here to say we could go back and work in tremendous harmony with the city, with the Y, not having competing programs, but bring it back under the fold where it was originally had been for 30 some years, and particularly back to the fold where everybody agreed this is the way to go. I don't know whether the Y, Jeremy, I'd be interested in your thoughts on this, would say that, yes, let's get together and brainstorm it and make something specific happen. We have submitted a specific proposal, and I've shared that with Ted and Jackie and Jeremy. I didn't hear any opposition to it, but it also wasn't a formal setting. So now we're ready for a formal setting. I believe Jackie and Ted indicated that the first step to officially move something like this forward would be before your board, who upon your review and discussions and whatever, might then take a recommendation or lack thereof, if that be your call, to City Council, who would then reverse the decision and close the city-run program that's being run at the Y. So that's in a nutshell what I've said in 6 or so pages, and we're here to answer any questions and to emphasize, I guess above all else, the passion that our board has as longtime citizens to do what's right and to keep programs going for the good of our community. And that's what you're about, and that's what we're about. And I've just got to believe doing what's right. It's easy to reverse it, get there. So questions to the board?
Thanks, Art. That was a lot. There's a lot in there. I don't know if everyone's had a chance to read through it, but I just want to make sure that we, as we start this discussion, fast forward a little bit to the solution you're asking for. So I think what you're asking is for the Y program to be disbanded, and that DYAA will be the only option for youth in Delaware for soccer.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that typical amongst neighboring cities? I know you, in your document, you put the price for the Powell Y soccer. is there also a POW version of DYAA?
That's a good question. The organizations such as POW, which is a relatively small community, they're a part of, in most sports, part of the Olentangy Youth Athletic Association, which encompasses far more than soccer. In fact, it encompasses all of their youth sports that are privately run and managed by that private association. They work in concert with Y programs. The interesting thing about that, when I was doing all this research, is if you look at the fee structures and the pricing structures, well, you'll see that report, it won't beat a dead horse, but the private associations are typically running at same or less price. And it's also difficult to compare program. I've noticed in all my research here too, because if there is a need for 4 or 5-year-olds to have one session a month, we're all in. We can change our program. What we can't change is the competing forces in a community of our size and stature. And I think I cited what's happened, or what did happen, in Marysville and Marion, where the Y made similar representations about we'll never open another program, and then they did, and both struggled.
I'm sorry if I missed it, but do we have a breakdown though of what the fees are? I mean, there is such a difference between the Y cost for soccer and then DYAA. Do we have a breakdown of what that fee goes towards though? But I mean, we know the price, but why is there such a price difference?
Yeah, the answer is you don't, not in this report, and I can easily provide that to you. In fact, Ted asked me to have that information, and of course I do. There are, the example that Ted gave me had like 4 line items that added up to the $90 fee. It was field maintenance and staffing costs, and I can't remember all of them, Ted, but it was a great example. I went back, and DYAA has 21 line items that go into calculating the fee for a rec player in the pre-K league, the K-1 league, the 2nd, 3rd league, the 4th, 5th league, and the 6th, 7th, and 8th league. Sure. 21 line items, so it's not as simple. What I did come up with is there's an average per participant cost of $80.81. The fees range from $50 for the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 5-year-olds, excuse me. Then it jumps from there to $80, I think, for the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. Then it jumps up to $120 for your 6th, 7th, and 8th. The big differences are in licensed referees, which are extremely expensive, lining bigger fields, which is actually extremely spent, over $25,000 just to line fields and provide the field maintenance piece. So that's essentially you can't really go through and say, okay, Johnny's pre-KK fee of $50 is made up of this, this, and this. Sure. Also, what happens in the fee structure within these 21 line items, there are allocations. So for example, if you have an allocation of the field expense or the equipment, buying soccer balls, for example, those are allocated over the number of participants in that league. It's not as easily defined as saying for for John swimming. Well, I'm sure you have the same situation in any program. You can't just come up with an easy formula. So it's all very scientific. It's good finance people doing that, but.
Well, I'm curious though, with the DYAA program, is there a fee being charged by the city for you to utilize the Delaware fields? So meaning for the Y, I mean, the city has an agreement with the Y, and I was wondering if that went into why there are lower fees versus is a portion of yours going to pay for the usage of the fees or usage of the fields?
We don't pay either a flat fee or a per participant fee to the city for using the fields. What we pay is all of the maintenance and lining and moving of all the goals after each season and things of that sort.
And is that agreement with the city then? I mean, is there an agreement between the city and DYAA for that?
That's correct.
And is that typical in other communities? I mean, is that the fee that typically goes into?
Yeah, it's all over the map. Some of your larger associations actually own their own parks. And, they've amassed all kind of funds. Our fees, I should state, are the lowest. You can look there. We're the lowest of anywhere around. And that was a big misunderstanding from one or two people who wanted to get the rec to do it, and city will subsidize it. We'll charge everybody $40. That's what we're sort of competing with and saying that's not a realistic number either. So it's being subsidized by the city. Somehow you can't provide a program at $40, not that goes on for 6-7 weeks and t-shirts and all the stuff that you do. But
Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. My name is Jackie Walker. I'm the Assistant City Manager for the City of Delaware, for those of you that I have not had the pleasure of meeting yet. I was the interim Parks Director for until we were lucky enough to convince Ted to come. And so just, I want to give you some quick history just to make sure I want everybody on the same page. The reason that I was actually the person responsible for going to the YMCA and asking them if they would provide a soccer alternative for the younger kids here in Delaware. The reason for that, as interim Parks Director, I received a number of phone calls and connections from different citizens, and as well did a number of council members saying that it was they just could not afford DYAA. Those were the calls that we got. So I was directed by council via Tom Homan, who is my direct report, to see if the Y would consider offering a lower cost program just for the younger kids so that they could find out if they're even interested. If any of you have been to younger kids soccer, they follow each other around like ducks. So it's kind of, it's just about, are they interested seeing if they even want to be out there. So just so we're really clear, the Y did not come to the city to ask. The citizens, the constituents whom I'm responsible for, asked us to see if we could make something happen. So it wasn't the Y. It was, I heard from constituents, I went to the Y, they said, yes, we would be happy to provide something at a low cost rec program through the YMCA. So I just want to make sure everybody is on the same page with that. And then also I did want to mention just real quick, when Art refers to the maintenance of the fields, the city is in charge of plowing, excuse me.
sometimes.
Mowing all of them, but Art staff is responsible for, like you said, the goals and the lining, but we do all the mowing and all the weeding and things of that nature. And there is no charge to DYA for that. Even at their club level, they aren't charged anything to use the fields at club, as well as their rec program. So I'm here, Ted's doing a great job. I'm here just for history, and so I'm available for questions, but I just want to make sure everybody understood. The Y did not approach the city, the constituents approached me. I went and approached the Y.
Yeah, thank you, Jackie.
Yeah.
At the time you went to the Y to gauge their interest, did you go back to DYA to see
Sure,
if
we
they could
did.
lower their
They were
prices?
interested, and then Matt Bruns, who is the executive director of the YMCA here, and Art and I discussed it. We had a meeting, the three of us had a meeting, and I think Art is even quoted in the paper about saying that he was supportive of the new venture.
Yeah, supportive of giving it a try, only after the fact that I realized that the city and specifically one or two city council members did not have accurate information upon which they were making pretty significant judgments as to cost. And I will say, and I think I stated in there, I've had in my entire 40 years, 2 or maybe 3 people question the cost. So, but that's because I think those who are in a soccer community kind of already know that it's a good deal, if you will. What I was most frustrated about is we never had an open dialogue discussion until I think recently did anybody in the city even know that we have financial aid. One of the questions Ted asked me to come prepared with was how much we offer in financial aid. Essentially, we offer 1/3 of every dollar we can generate from sponsorships, donations, and community contributions, and that number exceeds $9,000. So we've never had enough people getting financial assistance. We don't call it financial aid because we don't want it to be there's no application. They literally shoot me an email and they get financial assistance from that pot of money. And it's interesting that our community sponsors, the companies around town, they love the fact that they're supporting us in terms of making it possible for kids to play who otherwise couldn't afford it. I'm sure the Y has programs
Yeah, the Y
for
has
financial aid too.
an extensive program, and actually their motto is everyone plays.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to find that on their website. It's very easy to find it the city's website connected to the rec program. If you're in need of financial assistance, everyone plays. So yes.
I
don't want to dominate.
I have a quick question. So a lot of this, all of this happened before I was on the board. I'm guessing before many of us were on the board. So I don't know what was said between DYA, what was said between council, what was said between the Y. I have no idea what verbals were given. We'll do this and you're going to be in charge of this. No idea. Question about financing, because $40 a kid would be tough to run a program on. Does the city subsidize any of that cost?
The city doesn't subsidize. What we do is through the rec levy fund, we obviously built the rec center. We updated all of our fields and things of that nature. So it's an agreement that the Y actually run all of their own programs, and they don't receive any subsidy from us, but nor do we receive any of the enrollment fees.
Sure.
So we don't get any of the
Well, I
revenues.
guess
They
my
get to
question
keep
was,
it.
so
No,
the
we don't.
$40 that you charge per kid to play soccer, that
No.
covers all the fees. So there's no extra funds that have to be pulled
From the general fund currently,
or that
no.
the city is paying to offset costs.
No, the Y lines their fields. The city is responsible for mowing them, the same as DYA.
Sure.
I'm two sports directors on our fields. So I mean, that's part of their job. So it's not, we don't contract anything out. We go out and do it ourselves. You know, we have the scholarship forms, we call it Membership for All. I think last year, 2017, we gave $175,000 away in this community. So, I mean, we don't care if we lose money on the program.
Well, and we
That's not
can't
something-
afford to lose money as a nonprofit, so we're skinning, we're a bunch of volunteers, not paid staff to do all this stuff, so.
Do we have other, and from what I'm understanding though, we have other sports within Delaware that there are options at the Y or options at with different organizations, right? How is this different than some of those? Because I know from my experience, I could send my kid to play flag football at the Y, or there's another I-9 flag football program that I could send them to, and the same with basketball and the same with baseball. So I'm just curious why this would be different for soccer.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with any of the other programs. I'm afraid to speak to that personally. I think the greatest comment or the most significant comment or response I could make would be if you go way back to what got us the Y, and then the promises and representations made, and then to kind of go another direction without communication and dialogue and let's working together is what is my general comment, but I've made that comment before.
Do you guys have background? I mean, is that correct that there are other we have the same situation with other sports, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's, two other basketball leagues. I mean, there's baseball all around us.
Those were all programs that the city was running. This is an entirely different situation. This was a private organization that had been running this and instrumental within the community that then was taken from them to the detriment of both.
I think Ray has something.
I think one of the key pieces too is kind of what we talked about earlier is the confusion within our community, right? I personally talked to a couple different folks where they think they're in one program, they find out they're in the other. And in soccer, more than some of these other sports, you're starting in a pre-K. I mean, I've coached for 20-some years, and they start in pre-K, and they'll play up in the rec leagues till they're in the middle school piece. We're actually pursuing even a high school potential type of thing, but it's not like some of these other sports where you get a certain point, now you're in a school club sport, or you might be going there, right? So, one of the things we've got to make sure that the kids have is, if I start and I enjoy doing this, I have the capability and to do it without the parents finding out, oh, I missed this year because I thought I was in a different area than what I'm in, right? And I think it's just that that's always been in this case because of the popularity of soccer, the ability to have that continuity, especially in a program that's designed, for recreational, for the kids that are there for the love of it, you've got to make that easy for them. I think that's, one of the key pieces when you look at it. When you start looking at, ways of doing the various partnerships, I think there's a lot of opportunity, but the support in our community for this is just phenomenal. When you take a look at what we've got, I think that's, when you boil it all down, that's to me the key piece we're trying to simplify.
Could I question, if I'm looking at this correctly, the Y program is just ages 4 to 9, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And the DYA program is 3 to 4-year-old all the way up to potentially through high school, is that correct?
Through 8th grade.
Through 8th grade,
Mhm.
okay.
We were kicking around too, just as looking for compromises here. What if the rec program had program for the youngest of kids? And then those who were going to be, early on, kids start to express their interest in a sport. And if it happens to be soccer, then DYAA takes it from there. I mean, we've been brainstorming possibilities because of the discussion that again, this is not a community large enough to have two, quote, competing programs. Both are good, both are different. So can't we work together like we did before and come up with something that would be much more of a compromise, so we don't see a deterioration? Because that harm, we're seeing it, at least in DYAA, I think. I don't know.
Can I get some clarification
Yeah.
there? When you keep referring to harm, and you've said that a few times about it's not the level you like to see, are you referring to the skill level of the kids? So are you saying that if you're in a DYA program, you're going to be a better soccer player versus if you're in the Y? Or are you strictly talking about your participation and bottom line of cost?
No, not cost driven. When I talk about harm there, the term harm was we're going to try this at the Y unless we find that the DY was harmed. And so I'm here to quantify that, yes, we've been harmed and it's time to get serious about this. So no, the harm, there are a couple of things going on that way. What's that?
I'm sorry.
I don't think it's been answered. I'm not I still have the same question you have.
I mean, I guess
Yeah.
to me, like, I will tell you my personal, this is my personal, I have 3 small boys.
Right.
And I've enrolled them in DYA one year, and then I ended up enrolling them in the Y program. And the Y program was a better fit for us personally because they're small. They're just exploring several different sports. And so the cost was better for us because I could enroll them in more sports to try out. And then as they get older and decide, yes, I'm focusing in on soccer, I would be more likely to put them in what I view as DYA being as a more competitive club where you guys are really honed in on soccer, like soccer life, versus I'm at the Y trying it out at a different price level and letting my kid try different options.
That's a really good assessment of the two. The greatest harm that I feel personally for the kids is the fact that if you have 100 kids playing in one league, let's say pre-K, and you're dividing up 10 on a team, that gives you 10 teams. That's not a good example. Let's say you have 50. So you have 5 teams versus back in the good old days, and Jeremy has numbers like that too, where our league, or the number of teams in a given age group are fewer. Therefore, you have fewer number of teams playing the same people, every other week, let's say. And that gets a little old. That's not as exciting. It's not as stimulating versus if they had 500 kids up to a certain age and they had 10 teams playing each other and had some round robin tournaments and stuff that we do. But it's hard to do that when you have 5 and 6 teams in a league.
But I guess that takes me back, and anyone else, I guess it takes me back to my point of the Y is only going up to 9, which is essentially, I mean, I have a second grader who will be 9.
Right.
So if it cuts off there and he decides this is going to be my sport, I mean, it seems to me like the Y program is more for like the young trying it out just getting their feet, deciding whether they're going to be a soccer player. And then if he decides he is, then I would put him in a more competitive program like DYAA. So I guess I'm still not clear as to what the friction is, other than you've lost some participants in your season, which I understand because you are trying to run your program and you need to have participants. So I understand that piece of it, but I guess as a resident of Delaware with children who are exploring different sports, I'm having a hard time figuring out what the harm is in having DYAA and the Y program run through the city program, Jackie, versus like it. I'm not clear. If someone could clarify that for me. Yes.
Well, Tanya Bray, I think what Art's saying is we are concerned about the numbers right now. But it's not to say the Y say, yeah, we're going to stop at 9, but now next year we're going to put it 12.
Which I think that's already been, there had been discussion of that, right? That they're not going to make it higher than 9 years old.
We would have to come back to this board because this board and city council has to approve the Y agreement, correct? And so that's all in the Y agreement, which is renewed this year. It'll be 5 years. And so they actually would have to come to this board and then come to city council to make that proposal. I can tell you that I shouldn't speak for Jeremy, but there's no interest.
Well, I think, one of the things specifically what you brought up, right? Typically, somewhere between kindergarten and second grade is where you see that interest into a single sport, especially in the soccer range. And it's really that first and second grade is a big difference in age, right? And if you're trying a 1 day a week, try it to see if you like it type of Y program, and you find out you like it, there's no easy way for a resident to know, now where do I go, right? I think that's part of what
So
has
that's
been the
more of
harm,
like a
right?
marketing communication issue. I mean, that's not, to me, that sounds more of like, that's just making the program clear enough that people understand that there's two different programs and what the differences might be between them versus not having both options. Is that what I'm hearing? That you're saying that it's not easy if I have my son at the Y and he decides he's going to be a soccer player and we're getting behind him and he's playing soccer, I'm going to flip him over because he's 9 now and he can't even play at the Y, and I'm going to flip him over to DYAA. You're saying that's where there's confusion?
I'm saying that's one of the points of confusion, right? I think you've got that plus the fact of folks signing up for one or the other thinking they're in there. Because I mean, when I was at the one last week or the week before, and they've got the flyers and somebody was asking about the spring registration for soccer, and they specifically said, where do we sign up for the spring DYAA? And they handed them one of the forms there that was for that. And I was able to at least explain to that person, hey, there's 2 programs you can choose from, but there's certainly confusion with the residents as far as which ones they're signing up.
Yeah, they didn't give the DYA forms. That would be my dream come true if we were working together. So, oh, you're this age, well then here, you apply to this program and we're all one. And I'm just not a big believer in smaller town competing over kids. It's just foreign to what we've built in DYAA for 45 years.
So, okay, I haven't been here for a very long time, so I don't really know the backstory and all that, and I certainly don't have kids who are in soccer, but would you ever consider maybe YMCA taking them from 4 or 3 to 9, and then you taking them from 9 to 14? That way there's no confusion, maybe? Just so, like, if they're 3 to 9, they go to YMCA, and then you take them to DA or DYA.
DYA, yeah. We've talked about that, not at the 9-year level, but we've talked about that conceptually, yes. I mean, at one time, Tanya, we were brainstorming that for sure, at some point where it's more of a true Y kind of rec type program, because admittedly, I think you point out very, very well the fact that there's a different stage. DYA is different.
But remind me, for DYAA, is it, it's parent coached as well, right? The same as the Y?
I don't have this, my gut feeling is it's probably maybe 50 or 60% parent coach.
And then who would make up the other?
Oh, we got a lot of AWU kids coaching. shouldn't call them kids, but young adults, a lot more. It's interesting. A lot more just soccer enthusiasts from, my kids' ages where they grew up playing are now coaching, whether they have a kid in the program or not. The quality is it's really cool to see. Yeah.
I'm a bit confused just about what is the other side stance. Are you opposed to this? Is the Y opposed to joining or working together or?
Well, I mean, I don't know what he's talking about as far as joining. We run a program, that's for ages 4 to 9. And it is a basic rec program. It's 1 day a week. That's it. And we have 300 people that think that's what they want for their kid. So I don't know what the other side, as far as wanting to join, what that would look like.
So you said you have 300 people enrolled in your program?
I think that's about right.
I think we run 2 seasons, so anywhere from 2 to 300.
Each season.
I think it's 250.
Yeah.
3 might be a lot.
But in the spring season, the DYAA was only down 21 participants. Is that right? According to this, it says spring 2017, DYA had 319 in the Y age group. DY lost another.
Yeah, go back to the report and you'll see the decline from 2015. That's just a snapshot of the past fall season.
Right here.
But I don't think we're not getting all those kids.
That's what I'm getting. That was what I was getting to. If you have that many if there's that many going through the city, it's not like, that's not how many you're losing, is not directly going to the Y.
Absolutely. No, it could be lacrosse. It could be.
Does that include
book club? I mean, yeah.
The travel soccer as well? This is strictly rec?
Those numbers are of the same ages of the program
that we
run. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was so we have an apples to apples.
Right.
Yeah. That number, if you included our 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, that number is 500-600. Okay. Yeah.
Well, Art, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
And it's regarding that chart. And if I'm looking at this correctly, in the fall of 2015, the YMCA had 215 participants and you had a reduction of 130, which means that there was kind of a net gain in kids participating of 85. Would I be correct in stating that? So if you look at the 215 Y participants, you had a loss of 130, so there was a net gain of 85. Am I looking at that chart correctly?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, so then in the spring of 2016, there was a net gain of 180. In the fall of 16, a net gain of 110.
That's correct.
In the spring of 2017, a net gain of 280. So if anything, the sport is thriving in sheer numbers. Now, maybe it's
absolutely
split somewhat.
Absolutely.
But there is a big upsurge.
DY is thriving. The Y program is, I won't say thriving. I think both organizations are always concerned about, I'd love to have
But the
8 teams
numbers are going up
instead of 4.
significantly is my point.
Not like it used to be, but there's a predictable growth. Yeah. I think more attributable to the growth in our community
Right,
than
our
nowadays
community's
to the growth in soccer. Whereas for years it was the growth in soccer that, now it's lacrosse and all the other great opportunities that we have in Delaware. Yeah. But yeah, predictable growth for sure, and predictable success of both programs. Could 2 and 2 equal 5 instead of 4 is what I'm saying. Could we be coming together and come up with a more synergistic relationship like we used to have in 90% of my years doing this?
For the numbers you gave us, it's all about your 2 competing programs. How, if any, has that affected your higher level programs? Have you seen the same number of kids age 10 and above? Have you seen less? Have you seen more? The ones that don't even have an option to Y.
Yeah.
Are you seeing any of those kids transfer over to your program? Are you seeing a loss? Are you seeing it remaining relatively flat?
I think relatively flat, modest growth, but nothing that would lead me to draw a conclusion. I mean, at one time I was looking at it under the microscope saying, are kids, because they're having a sort of casual recreational experience, are they not becoming impassioned about it like they were when they grew up in DYAA? I can't say that.
I think there's one thing we could point to specific to your questions. In our middle school league, we've had a drop off where we've had to drop in some cases from 3 teams to 2 teams. And that's absolutely attributable to those, that 9, 10, 11-year-old, because that's what feeds in to your 6th, 7th, 8th grade league. And
That's not attributable necessarily to the why. That could be many other
No,
factors.
I'm saying it's attributable
Yeah,
to the
got to know
lower,
where it plays in that league.
the lower level contact. No, absolutely.
Yeah,
And
I mean, but that's what I'm saying, I've seen that side. I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen where those kids are going.
Right.
And it's not, they didn't play in our program and they're going to surrounding areas to play. They're not playing in Delaware.
Correct.
So that. I mean,
Well, not in the MS, but in the, like, talking about the select or club level or something like that. We're talking about the rec,
Yeah, we're talking
6, 7, and 8.
strictly rec.
But yeah, you couldn't draw a correlation to success or lack thereof at the Y or DYAA. It's just the way the numbers are.
I think, yes, the select, that's grown significantly. I know from 2015 to 2016, your select increased by 25 kids. And then from 2017, million spring numbers, but just with spring numbers, it had grown by 5, from 245 to 50, just the select. So the select program is growing pretty well, I think.
Yeah, Tanya can speak to that, but yeah, I mean, again, not like the good old days when soccer was the dominant sport, but it's certainly successful.
The select, I mean, sorry to speak on it, the select will range from having 13 kids to 18 kids on a team. So right now.
No, I'm talking about number of people in there, not teams.
Total participants.
Number of kids in there. So like, from 2012 to 2015, it's grown about 10. But then like, big jump from 2016, and I imagine the fall numbers are in the 2016, 2017, big jump.
We're down. I can tell you right now, this year or last year, our teams were less teams. And I know you're saying participant. I'm seeing it as a team function where we've had 20 teams, now we're at 18. I think we're gonna be at 17.
Oh, I'm going off the numbers you've given us. So those numbers are up with participants.
I agree, but I think if you look at your select piece there, that's, it's such a different piece because those are folks that, I have one daughter and they're doing it year round, but when you look at recreation, a team, as she said, a team of 18 in select, you have 6 kids that might play 20% of the time and they're still paying for that. When on a rec, the goal is to have maybe 2 to 4 subs, so everybody's getting a significant amount of play time. And that's really the focus on a rec.
I just want to get to your question about how the select program is growing at that point.
And the select program would be the 9 and above. So I keep saying why, I'm sorry, the city program only goes to 9 years old, right? And so, but the select is the DYA older programs and those are growing?
No, that's all part of our rec program. Okay. Yeah, the select is the club, with tryouts, it's not a rec. It's a whole different world from, yeah.
Well, being it like in the, in the position that I am, the school system, a lot of kids are playing lacrosse.
Yeah.
Huge numbers. And I can tell you that a ton of the kids that I interact with have quit soccer to play lacrosse.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
A lot of them. You should have seen the sign up for spring lacrosse. There was 4 lines.
Yeah.
And that's 6 through 8.
We applaud that. I mean, we really applaud
And
that.
we're
We
here for the
DYA,
kids
yeah.
all together.
The more
Anyways,
opportunities.
No matter what sport it is, we're here for the kids.
No question.
Art, I just want to make sure I understand your one and only goal here. Is that to just have one soccer program
Yes.
and you would like it to be DYAA and you
would,
feel
yeah.
that's the best for Delaware?
Or a marriage of the two where we're back again, this competing, I keep using that word. It's not wicked competition. I don't mean to overstate it, but instead our community, I can tell you, is not large enough to sustain 2 viable programs, period. I've seen it. We're close, but we're not there. So yes, it should be under 1. I wouldn't suggest that the program should be all under the Y. I don't think Jeremy would say that's the right solution either. But yes, I think there should be 1 program.
Okay.
And tell me again how that benefits the city?
Well, you get into my comments about field usage. You get into both programs. 1 program is stronger than 2 separate ones because you have more kids playing, therefore more teams, therefore more fun and competition and stuff like that, instead of playing the same team over and over. What I hear in the leagues where we only have, let's say, 4 or 5 teams is, how come we're playing them again? How come we, that kind of thing, that helps the program tremendously. Certainly law of large numbers reduces cost, as I mentioned earlier, in terms of we could get pricing down and get it more controllable.
I think the other difference within these two programs, I'm just glancing through here, is that, am I right that DYAA has, you guys do not have co-ed teams, right? So you have single sex teams?
They're all single sex teams, yes.
And does that do anything to participation levels? I mean, because the one through the city is mixing boys and girls together. It's a co-ed team.
Yeah.
I'm just interested to know if there's any difference with that doing anything. I mean, in terms of that program isn't pushing down your participation levels. And it says you have 900 children currently in that program, right? That's correct?
I'm sorry?
So you guys have 900 currently in your program? And
Total.
Is that total from 4 to 9 years old? Or is that your?
No, I'm sorry, that's the whole program, soup to nuts, yeah. The numbers that I think you have there of 300 or so are the numbers that we have in our rec program of the same ages that the Y has.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's the 1,100 you spoke of earlier, was that a total number too?
Correct. Well, no, I'm sorry, way back, now I'm going way back in the heyday when soccer was just really, taken off. 1,100 was rec only. Yeah, didn't even include, but at that time we didn't have many select teams.
Right.
Yeah, right. So maybe 1,300 at that time max. No, 1,100 was rec.
Well, you didn't have the other sports either.
No, we
Right.
didn't.
I mean, we used to have a baseball program
Right.
with 1,200 kids.
Yeah, in our spring, back in those days, and it's a lot of the football kids would play football, Optimus football, and in the spring they'd play DY soccer. So our numbers would be at X in the fall season and X plus 50% in the spring. Yes.
So it sounds like there's a lot of reasons why the program is declining overall, just in general. I mean, because of different sports that are available. I guess I'm still having trouble wrapping my head around the fact that giving residents an option to have more of not such a competitive soccer environment is a bad thing. And I'm not seeing that that's what's completely driving down the DYAA program. So I don't think is there any other questions? I don't think there's anything we can do tonight other than this was a great conversation. Yeah. But there are some things we can look at in terms of how we're communicating the program, to make sure that people are aware that there are two programs, right. Whether they're lower the Y ages and have then everyone else go to DY. There's options there that I think we threw out, that there were several, but the next step then, Ted, is what?
Well, if we want to move forward with the way that things are right now, then that's our next step, is just to keep moving forward.
Keep on going, keep discussions going, whatever.
That'll happen. We'll keep talking apart.
Well, I mean, the programs registration's opening up for both programs for the spring season. So I think in here you even said this would not impact anything until
next
2019.
Fall. Next fall of 18, but
okay,
or never. I mean, whatever. I'm just.
What we were proposing was that the DYA wants to expand their program, which we're fine with, and we've all discussed this with the YMCA and DYA. And at one point, the YMCA was going to expand their program to add another age group, but they're not going to do that at this point. They're just going to stay the same. I think DYA is still moving forward with expanding their program to the younger, the pre-K.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Yes. And so that's what we were. Everybody was all right with that, so we were planning on moving forward with that at this point.
Well, we've always had DY started pre-K age 4, and then by sort of popular demand, we took it to age 3.5.
Okay.
So we took and potty trained. So yeah.
It's important.
So that was So we. That's where you do have parents coaching, incidentally. Those are all parent volunteers.
Okay.
Thank you all very much. Good
and
discussion.
Any other questions before Art? Okay, so we'll be in touch then with more conversations to come.
Yeah, there'll be more conversations, but I guess at this point, we're just going to plan on moving forward with
So that, just to restate then, that means Y soccer is available for 4 to 9 year olds. DYAA is starting at 3.5 up through 8th grade currently. And then, so that'll remain for these seasons, and then we'll continue conversations
And then the select program.
in the select program, which is, yeah.
And I would like to see continued dialogue, particularly to get out of this confusion where we're at a Y desk and somebody's saying, I'm here to sign up for DYAA, and they're handed a Y application. There's got to be more.
I'm not sure how much
working
confusion
together.
there is. I'm a parent of a middle school kid and an elementary school kid, and I coached rec basketball, but I don't know anything about soccer, and they didn't play soccer. And I somehow knew that the Y was soccer intro or sport intro, and yet if you wanted to do something, if you were serious about it, you did your organization. And I somehow figured that out, and my kids don't do soccer. So
I think you're probably more in the know.
Well-
Kind of the general population it's not uncommon to get questions, which program is this and stuff. So it's not a huge problem, but I don't want to overstate it. It's just more and more communication can minimize confusion.
So I would
Also-
go ahead.
And we want to honor, I mean, you've had a long, you do a lot of great things with kids. So that's ultimately, we want to support that too.
Yeah.
I'll make sure to tell our staff that if somebody comes in and they say DYAA soccer,
Yeah.
then we'll
online.
direct them toward DYAA. But if they say soccer, we offer
They
soccer.
give a choice.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I will go on record and say, I don't know of any of my staff that would do that. Because we cover it in every staff meeting. But I'm not gonna say that it didn't happen. I'm just saying from what we've trained our staff to do, and Roger's sitting here and he knows them too, that is not something we would do.
Absolutely, Jeremy. And I mean, it's clear miscommunication that way. We have the same stuff with our large organization. Absolutely. No fault intended or accusation at all. Just happens.
Okay, was there any
So-
other last questions for Art?
I don't have, as someone, I was just going to agree with Councilman Browning that I just moved here 2.5 years ago. I saw a DYAA sign. I asked somebody what it was. They told me, and I have the same feeling about my young children as Councilwoman Lash, and or Chairwoman Lash, that the Y, as somebody who grew up as a Y member, the Y and having options at the Y is very important to me and my family. And I view that as more of the exploratory, as the cheaper option, as something I would really hate to see go away, as an option for my young children. And when I asked one of my coworkers, what is this? She said, that's for the more competitive, that's for people who are more serious about soccer. And I said, well, that's not us. Right now I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. That's not who we are. And so that's why we sought out the Y. I like the option.
If I may piggyback.
And I didn't
on
find
that.
it confusing.
If I may piggyback on that for a second, Art.
Sure.
I've been with, my child grew up through DYAA since 2005. I know the program pretty intimately. And they're exactly right in terms of when the community thinks of DYAA, they think of a more serious soccer player. If you want to change that, you're going to have to start changing.
Our brand has to change.
Exactly.
From like soccer uniforms, the t-shirt, the whole thing. Play once. Yeah, I totally. And I'm not. And I speak for our board. We're pretty committed to the level of program, if you will, that we have now. I don't see us altering that unless we're to be getting together and doing something, which I still would dream about. We have both working together that way. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Art,
Thank
for all
you.
being here and you know where I live.
Okay, so we're moving on to upcoming 2018 volunteer activities.
Yep, that's you, Roger.
You skipped update on the Y.
Oh, I'm sorry. Update of the Y. Thanks for keeping me in check. I was just trying to get out of here.
You guys do such a good job. You don't have any questions. So if you have any questions, you all received a report. If you have any questions, we'll be glad to try and answer them for you.
2 questions. Have you moved the daddy-daughter dance to this Friday, the 19th?
Yes.
Second question Is the registration full for the mother-son superhero party?
It is not full.
But it has opened.
Did it open?
It has opened.
Okay.
You can leave here. You can leave here and do your registration, right.
Time out.
But no, I think,
And I'll actually,
Yeah.
so the Mother Son Superhero Party is a hot commodity. What we've done the last couple of years is we have a very soft kind of opening to it, where it's open for, we call it city only right now. If somebody comes and is really adamant about it, we probably wouldn't turn them away exactly, but this is kind of like the city time before I put it on Facebook and it completely blows up. So it's like very hard to like just have it be like.
What's the age limit for that? I mean, your son has to be how old? 3. But that's not the same for the daddy-daughter, right?
Correct.
Okay. I just have seen some things recently about, and I was wanting to see if you could expand on it, just out of curiosity when we hear things then. So there's a liability issue with the father-daughter dance or something?
It's just historically been for.
right.
My
We didn't
daughter-
change the format of
My
the
daughter
dance.
did it last year, who was 3, she'll do it this year. Honestly, I would say both. I mean, a 3-year-old, it's like, if you've been there, it's really not the right environment for them.
Okay.
We had so many people lying essentially about the age of their children into the superhero party. And what they do is they change their accounts and it screws up everything.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a real big mess later on. And so we just said 3, just because it was too hard to fight. So.
Because you'll see that
I can change that back
difference.
up to 4, but it was really nasty.
Yeah. And you can see that at the father-daughter dance when, it's packed.
Yeah.
And me as a father
I just
trying to
think
keep
we're
up.
probably, I just think maybe we should be consistent on those.
Yeah.
Right? Like if they're both 4 years old or they're both 3, because I did see I saw a mother who signed her daughter up for the father-daughter dance and she was 3 and did not catch that you couldn't get in until 4, and then that's heartbreaking for a little 3-year-old who has her dress picked
And
out.
we don't check IDs at the door. Like we're not checking.
It's not about us.
We're also not checking genders at the door.
Windows
We're
at the
not. You know what I mean? So when you exclude anybody from a program, it is hard for people.
Right.
And what I learned from a mentor of mine a long time ago is that if you try to make a program that's for everybody, you make it for, or make it for everybody, you really make it for nobody.
Great.
And it goes into the last discussion we just had. There's different things, different people need different things, even if they don't know it. So we exclude women from the daddy-daughter dance. You know what I mean? We exclude men from
Unhappy mothers, I might say,
Yeah.
when they have to leave.
when they have to leave. So, but like I said, we've had it's tough. It is tough. So
Because we have the same thing
I
on the
guess-
upper end too. People, when their kid gets a certain age, they want them to continue going.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't disagree that there should be age limits. I just think we might want to be consistent because they're kind of like the altar. It's like the mother-son superhero or the daddy-daughter dance, and they should maybe be the same age limits. I don't know if anybody else has any feedback on
I
that.
think the reason he moved it to 3 is because we have people that are changing their accounts. We didn't necessarily have that much on the father-daughter side. And that's,
we started it at 4.
Yeah, it messes our system up a lot when people go in and to do that for the one program. And then they come back and want to register their kid for baseball and they wonder why their kid can't get into this age group. Well, come to find out, you changed your account and changed your age. Now we have to figure out how to fix you. So.
Yeah,
it's-
I know,
it's-
Maybe we could just.
Oh, yeah.
We might just put recommended.
4.
I mean, it's in the contract that 4 is for the daddy-daughter dance. So I don't know if we need to get a change on that, to
Yeah.
change that.
We'd have to get that approved.
Okay.
Father-daughter dance was a city program.
And that's
Mother
why
Son
we have
Superheroes is a
some
Y
more
program.
flexibility with that program to actually have a change.
I see. Okay.
So, but
I just felt
I'm
for the
fine
little
for
girl who
whatever.
had her dress picked out and then she couldn't go. Sad.
just tell her to lie.
Big flashbacks.
Get back on Facebook.
Do not quote him. Do not quote him.
Screen the meeting on.
She's probably watching.
There's an
We
error
have,
warning.
we have gone to programs that do say, recommended age, this, because it's, as soon as you put a restriction on it, it's like, that's what I wanted to do. It's like, yeah.
Okay. Did you have a comment?
The only thing I was gonna say, if you haven't gone, you should go. And then come back and have your conversation with Roger about the age.
For which one?
The daddy-daughter dance.
Oh, yeah. I know it goes-
I think they should both be 4 and up.
I
Raised
don't
1%.
disagree.
I chose not to take my 3-year-old last year who
Yeah,
was
I'm
eligible
not-
to go
That's a very
because I did
different
not think it would be fun.
You're
so I
just saying they need to be
I'm not
consistent.
saying 3 is the right age.
I agree.
I'm
It's just-
saying it just needs to be consistent.
I agree.
So
Right.
everyone knows 4 and up for any type of these programs. So
Yeah.
I'm
I
not
agree.
saying 3-year-olds should for sure. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
make them the same across both programs.
We just know when a kid comes in a diaper that they probably shouldn't be there.
Have them bring their
Have-
social security card with their birth date on it.
I mean, I personally would like 4 for the mother-daughter, so I don't have to take my 3-year-old. Okay.
So are any other questions about the report
No.
before we move into the calendar of special events?
Since I jumped to that, sorry.
Jeremy, do you ever get like a single parent asking about the father-daughter?
Oh, yeah, we've had grandparents, uncles.
So you,
And
so
mom.
you
Friend
might
down
have
the
a
street.
single mom would
Oh, yeah.
come to the father-daughter? Okay, I was just curious.
Well, we ask if they find a friend of the family or,
Okay,
Roger would take my daughter,
okay.
Right.
my wife
My
is single.
My father-in-law brings my daughters because I'm so busy.
Right.
But there's a lot of different family friends. That's for
Yeah.
both dances. We see that a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, we wouldn't turn you away.
And if you look on Facebook and stuff, where people comment, even if you look at the description, when you look deep down, it says any adult male, role model or something. I think it says. And like I said, we're not checking genders at the door either. So if somebody signed up, you can sign up online and show up, and we're gonna let you in. So.
Okay. Anything else about the rec program and event report? And we'll move on to you two also, but 2018 special events.
Yeah, so this calendar is something that can be found on the Delaware City Recreation page. It's been up. We update it as we go through. I think these have all been on there at least 6 months or so that people can go on at any time and see the major events that are coming up. Obviously, the daddy-daughter dance was postponed with the weather. Big thanks to every single vendor was able to come through and make changes in the last minute, so that was fantastic. We have the Mother-Son Superhero Party coming up, the Easter egg hunt and kite festival, and going on down the list. We've also included the Healthy Kids Day, which is not an official city event, but it is. It's a huge event at the Y, and a great opportunity to just be out there and see what's going on. Movies at Mingo and all kinds of amazing stuff. So these are also fantastic opportunities to get involved with the community. For you guys as a rec board to be out there and kind of get the feel. I value tremendously feedback that I get from participants, but also from people who, you guys are kind of keyed in. You guys hear these things, if you are able to go and say, wow, what about this next time? Or I know somebody who can do this, As far as volunteering at the events, all my contact information is on the back, and you can just let me know. You don't have to come for the whole thing. If you're interested in, just helping do setup or just helping at the end, or if you just want to come and actually just check it out and see what's going on. We have a very strong team leadership group as well that volunteers at most of these events. And I do try to get them with positive adults, just like you guys. So, you know, they're fantastic in their enthusiasm to do a great job, but they need a lot of direction. So even having an adult around who's kind of, you know, in the vicinity to kind of be that person. And we keep it a lot of fun. I really, as somebody who likes to volunteer and do things myself, I really don't like to go and show up and feel like I'm not making a difference. So if you let me know you're coming, and I will put you to work and make you feel like you are valued and not just kind of just being there wasting your time. I mean, through these activities, I mean, honestly, it's just fun for me at this point. This is my 6th year. Is our 7th year together? What is it?
Yeah.
7th year together.
You're 7.
7th year together doing, in a lot of these events, doing them 7 times. And it's like everyone is like a bunch of my friends getting together. It's like I'm throwing a big party for my friends. And then, because it is that community feel. So if you come to these things, you really get to see, you know, a lot of the same people, and that real community feel, and that's exactly what we want, you know, in Delaware. So it's a blast for me, and you know, the more you come to things, the more you'll enjoy them, and I think you'll be able to add even more to what you're doing here, a lot more insight.
Well, if you had to think about it, Roger and I are the only 2 directors that started with the branch when it opened.
That's right.
And they're still there now. So that's why we always look at each other. How long we've been there. But I would really point out Healthy Kids Day. I think we had discussed this before, but this is a great opportunity for this board to have a table representing the city programs, and those sort of things. That's a great connection piece as far as trying to get people to be aware that these are city programs, you know, and that this is what the city is offering through the Y. So, I mean, this event, there's how many people?
That's what, we were at it this year. We need to talk to you though. We need some stuff.
Yeah,
Right.
that's right. Well, I agree.
We were very sad when we were like,
giveaways, right?
We need stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't have a sign on
we
the
didn't
table.
have a sign, and we had a polka dot.
Didn't we print you a sign?
You
printed one.
Yeah.
Jeremy
Yeah.
did that.
Like,
So pretty.
We'll work on it again.
Yes.
Dilly dilly.
Yes.
Jeremy, is that event, the Healthy Kids, is that a Y event or is that a Delaware City school event?
That's a Y event.
It's
But
The school's involved.
the
Yes.
school's involved.
Yeah.
Like every Y has Healthy Kids Day. And I think on the same day.
It's
Well,
basically when you walk
used
into
to
the
do
gym,
that.
it's a bunch of
5K.
vendors. So like the school
Right,
there
yeah.
was the group, the Rotary Club was doing helmets and all sorts of stuff.
But they do the 5K run.
Okay.
Which
I have
they
a
didn't have
question.
Well, because
for you.
Willis
But they
is
will have
not
this
a
year.
school anymore.
Right.
They're back this year, I've been assured,
By Mrs. Gigley?
by Mrs.
I'll-
No, by Lance. I can't think of her first name. I can get it to you.
All right. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question about it, but not Park and Rec Board related, more where I work related.
So how am I gonna?
All my contact information is, or just Facebook related.
I don't have a question about the special events, just more of a thank you for putting
Yes.
all these together.
Yes.
My daughter participates in the Teen Leader Club as much as she can with her schedule, but it's very rewarding. As a father, I like her to know that you need to give back and experience that side because it could produce as much joy as it is participating in the event when you see that you've affected all these little kids.
Yeah.
So just for her to have that opportunity, I appreciate you doing that. So thank you.
Yeah.
He
And thank
does
you for
amazing
this.
things. If you've never seen him in action, you've got to, even you just come to watch Roger.
It's impressive.
Go to the superhero party this year, it's gonna be good. We
It's-
got some tricks up
it's-
the sleeve.
I love
I
the
see,
emceeing at
seriously,
the-
it's
It's
awesome.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions or comments about the events? And, okay, we'll move on to the 5K event.
I think Corey asked some questions last time about the 5K, so I wanted to make sure Roger and Jeremy were here to kind of answer some of those questions, just to explain a little bit about, what goes, it's not just what goes into the 5K event, and if there's some other opportunities to do something different to make it a little more affordable. So,
If I recall,
Yeah, I know, we gotta go
my
back.
question, I believe my question was for, I think it had to do with the fall pumpkin run event that ended up being really rainy, but anyway.
And the turkey trot.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the
one at
turkey
Y,
trot.
or the Meyer.
If-
Yes.
So let's say you've got a family, let's just use your family as an example, Roger. If you were gonna register your family, because I have a family of 4.
Right.
It would be well over $100. We don't need the t-shirt. We don't need the medal. We just need to get out and do it.
For which event?
The
turkey trot?
Well, the turkey trot was what I was complaining about at our last meeting.
we don't do the
But I
turkey
was
trot.
also referencing, right, I know you don't, but it was gonna cost close to 100 for us to do the pumpkin run, which was the same day as the trunk or treat.
Uh-huh.
I think.
If you just wanted to come and do the run and not be chipped and not get a t-shirt and not get a medal.
Yeah.
I mean, we have people that phantom run all the time. They
Oh,
show up and
I
just
know.
run the events.
But
You're promoting bandit running.
I'm just saying, I mean,
You're okay with that?
I don't know what we would do. I mean, if you're not getting anything, you're not.
But if you want to do that, I mean, honestly, logistically, I help run events. It's a nightmare
Yeah,
to try
I
to
was
figure
gonna
out,
say.
you're getting a
Right.
shirt, but you don't want
Right.
a medal,
Right.
and you want both.
And if somebody gets
And
hurt,
it's a
you don't have
nightmare.
contact
So,
information.
What we have
I would-
encouraged people to do in the past is volunteer, or not volunteer, donate to whatever charity is involved. If you just want a phantom run, bandit run, whatever you want to call it, but you want to feel good about it, then give $50 to the United Way, or give $50 to $20, whatever it is, that you're making a contribution to whatever this is, because a lot of races are for charity. So give, if it's a personal charity, give money to that charity and then eliminate any other headaches
But
from
do you know
that.
how to manage, I mean, you can manage that from an event standpoint then, or no?
Well, no, I mean, what you would do
Oh.
is just directly donate to whatever charities is
And then you
involved.
just shove
They can't, they're not looking at people's bibs. I run the OSU 4-miler every year, and I get so frustrated because I know I can run a 9.5 minute mile, and I'm passing people walking in front of me, and it drives me batty. No one checks bibs. It's just, you just line up where you want to go and go.
Yeah.
Right.
Waiting on that chip to go ding, ding, ding
Right.
when they come across the line.
my thought was, because I know that numbers were low, I know weather was bad, so on and so forth. How could we make it more inviting for your families? And in this situation, it was the trunk or treat, but it not cost a fortune. So I was saying, could you have a no thrills option? I didn't really want to go full no bandit or whatever. But I do see that donating back to, I get all of that. If I recall, a few of the complaints that I received was, it's too expensive. And then when I went to go enroll or register for our family, I was like, yeah, I get it.
The pumpkin run was $30 for an adult, which included a pretty nice t-shirt
Yeah.
and a medal. I mean, that's like, and then it's
And your
a charity,
timing.
And it's a charity.
And
It's
I
your
get
timing.
it. And I
Yeah.
get it. I really get
And
it.
then the kids were $5. So, and that's, I mean, $5 is like basically when we charge $5 is just so we know who's gonna show up. You know what I mean? It doesn't even cover, by the time you take into account the person going and the talking to somebody and,
Yeah.
so, I mean, I don't know that.
And no, I'm not promoting bandit running. But because
record.
once you register, we're responsible for you.
Right.
And there's a cost associated with that. Same way we tell people, well, I'm just going to watch my kid in the pool. Well, if you happen to fall over with a heart attack on the pool deck, do you not want us to save you? I mean, it's all the same thing. We're still responsible for you. We have to make sure we have enough people there to care for you if something goes wrong or if you need something. So right now, these races are at bare bones minimum. I mean, there's
Sure.
nothing to be made from them.
And they all go back to a charity?
Well, the
Or
Dave
nothing?
Staley doesn't. The Pumpkin Run does.
The Healthy Kids, is there a fee for registering for the Healthy Kids?
The race?
Yes, the 5K.
Yeah,
there it is.
that's
I'm sorry.
run to the Delaware City Schools.
Oh,
They do
I
it.
think I might know that.
So we really only run the 2 races.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would ask this board too, you know, to think about the Dave Staley. And, you know, the longevity of this race. It's suffering some loss in numbers greatly.
Yes, I agree.
We moved it to the original date that it was before. But it is the longest running triathlon, I think, in the state of Ohio.
Correct.
And
Are you
it's-
saying you want us to participate or volunteer or both?
I'm thinking to think about how this program should continue or not continue.
Okay.
You're talking about the Dave Staley, right?
Yeah.
I thought so.
The youth one is doing fine. It's the adult one that takes a lot of resources from PD to the sheriff's office to, you know, all lifeguards to all out in the streets and
Did
things like
Ironman
that.
do anything to that?
No, it was happening before Ironman.
Okay.
The Ironman didn't help it any.
Right.
But
do you think, and honestly, I don't know the longevity of Ironman. I know they're happy, which is great for the community to continue having them back. But should Ironman go away and people in the community are looking for a triathlon, maybe Ironman got some people involved. I mean, do you see a chance for it to
It's different
revive?
event.
I think there's other triathlons that are bigger than the ones that we run here that people could get to.
Right.
I mean, the open water is an attraction, you know, those sort of things. I mean, ours is in the pool. There's just a lot of limitations that we have.
It's a small town triathlon.
Right.
I mean, if you're real competitive, I mean, it's a great first triathlon.
Yes.
Well, if you're competitive, you can find, even if Ironman left, you can find one closer to drive to.
Right.
So
Now, we would, trust me, I've been involved with Dave Staley for almost 16 years and loved every minute of it and would hate to see it go away. But we're at a point now where we're putting in a lot of resources to continue this race, and it's just continuously dwindling in participation. And I don't know if the race needs to change. I think we changed it one year to you could have a team, and then there was only a 5K portion, and you know that didn't pan out. You know, our wellness director brought to my attention today that they would like to maybe move the date. I frowned upon that because we just moved the date last year. So I'm not real big fan on keep jumping around on dates when we're trying to get people accustomed to knowing when events are happening.
The only thing I would say to all of that, you are right, it is a small town triathlon. However, there are people like myself that love that event.
Oh, yeah.
For the mere fact that it is in the pool
Mhm.
and not open water. It does bring in your, sorry to say this, older than me folks that want to try a triathlon. And in addition to that, I would suggest putting it at the end of the darts summer season, which in my mind is like July 19th. Growing up, it was always at the end of the season and you knew that it was there. I don't know if that's even remotely something you
some
could
of
do.
some of the problem is we've looked at the dates, and you would either have it the first or second week of August or the last week of June because of the Mingo Man and the Ironman.
Okay.
There's just, our area is flooded with runs and those
Yeah.
type of events. So being able to move something and have it, you know, not be surrounded by something else is
The third thought would be, because the Ironman, because of that organization, and I know that organization, it isn't going to stay in Delaware forever. They
Right.
don't do that. So my other thought would be, find out if Delaware is going to still host in 2019. If not,
well, wait a minute, we're not looking to get rid of it in the next 2 years.
okay.
I'm
I
just
didn't
saying we
know.
need to start thinking of a plan on a way that if we can improve this event, that's what we want to do.
So as a person who runs and runs long distances, I would say I'm not remotely interested in running something or doing something like this in August because it's really hot. And I don't want to do that. So when you said June, I was like, no, June I might be interested. And I think that's for people who run
seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I'm the kind of person that this race attracts or this event attracts, but August is just too hot.
But then Mingo Man isn't that in June? Sometime around there?
July, I think.
If you really want to
It's
know, I'm
July.
registered for it. I'll look it up. Hold on.
But that, and I get it, I wouldn't want to change dates frequently either. That would just be my input. I would never sign up for
And we need,
July or
that's what I'm
August
saying. We need
race.
as many ideas as possible, because like I said, I personally do not want to see the event go away. But my job is to make sure that we're being responsible stewards financially.
Absolutely.
And doing, not, wasting resources. And if we're making every attempt to keep this program alive, then we're going to need some input and some new ideas, because I know we've talked about it. Our wellness directors have talked about it. We've tried to come up with different, plots for it. Put the kids and the adult one together, and, like I said, the kid one still grows a little bit. It's the adult one that's,
How many people participated last year?
I think we had Dave Staley,
Since you just
110.
had me look this up,
110.
Sunday,
110.
June 23rd for Mingo Man, but this is a first, and you guys might know this, and I could be late to it. But this year, Mingo Man is going to have a youth splash and dash on Saturday, June 23rd. And that's,
But it's not here.
it says it is.
No. That's what I thought too, and then I pulled up something and it wasn't in Delaware.
I was gonna say, where's
It's
that?
at Delaware State Park.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
But I was
I was
thinking
like, we're not
in the
having it.
city.
Well, but here's my thing. I wonder how many people are going to be coming because it is a U.S. triathlon event. I know, that's out of you and whatever, but it is interesting. I would personally, I don't know that I will be able to attend that day, but I would just to see how they're running it. I know that we've got the youth part figured out for this triathlon, but you might get ideas for the adults, especially since we're talking, and I get it because I've been in it.
Right.
The police force, all of that. What if we moved it to the state park?
You're talking about raising fees.
Yeah, that's true.
It costs more money.
To have it at Delaware State Park?
No, that's not free.
Yeah,
Your guards change. You gotta have open water lifeguards. They're not the ones that do your pools.
true, true.
I mean, you've got a whole lot that factors into that. Now you got people in boats.
The city, having it in the city is.
Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like we're good on the pricing of the pumpkin run, but we, as a board, can look at some ideas for Dave's daily event so that we can save the event over the next years. Okay, any more questions on that? Can we move on? Some people said it's past their bedtime. An update of parks activities.
I'll be quick. And it's probably a good thing we moved our smoking discussion to the next month. So we'll be coming back with more information on that. We want to get some more research from other cities and see how they're doing. And with the loaded agenda tonight, we're going to kind of hold off on that. So the only other thing I wanted to bring up on the screen, you're probably going to see that the East William Street improvements are going to start happening. They're taking a lot of trees out along East William Street. You've seen them marked for the road widening. So what we've looked at right here is a mitigation plan that will, looking at 4 different sites. We can't replace all the trees on the East William Street corridor. So we looked at these 4 sites to look at replacing those trees on. So there's going to be questions coming up in the community, I'm sure, about this, and you'll be hearing more and more about this as this project gets underway this year. So, but I would just want to kind of make you aware of this. That's our plan right now. And like I said, we've got those 4 sites nearby the East William Street corridor that we will be putting there. You know what, in the interest of time, I don't want to get into discussion on a shared bike program that I wanted to get your input on. If possible, maybe I'll just email you. It's a Lime Bike shared bike program that we're going to kind of get some input on, and we can maybe discuss the next board meeting. And I'll kind of give a little bit of an overview on that, but it's a pretty simplistic program that we don't have any expense to, and it could give us a good chance to try it in Delaware and see what it goes like. So maybe we'll include that in the next board packet.
Okay.
Can you include that map too?
Yep, can do that.
Any questions for Ted on parks activity? Okay, then staff comments. Any staff comments? Nope. Okay, member comments.
Don't shoot me for extending it, I'll be quick. Ohio Wesleyan is hosting their Bishop Backers Community Day on February 17th. I brought flyers. What that means is there's a men's and women's basketball doubleheader that's completely free to the community. They are doing a can drive. If you're interested in bringing anything, you can. But the other thing that goes on is in our field house, there's all kinds of tabling from the community. I believe the Y has a table. I think the city has a table. If the board wants a table, we can do that for free since we're a nonprofit. And I have registration form for that if anybody wants to do it. Just to get the word out there, it's an awesome day for your family. Come check out all kinds of things that are going on in Delaware and watch a couple of free games.
What's the date?
February 17th. So it's before our next meeting, which is why I wanted to make sure I brought it up. And there's information up here if you guys want anything.
Yeah, like you said, the Y's setting up a play area for kids.
There's zoo animals
zoo
that come
animals are
in, like your
coming.
kids can come, like last year, it was like a penguin and something else. It's pretty cool. And it's all free.
Cool. Starts at noon.
Awesome. Any other member comments? Okay, before anybody speaks, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I motion. Second.
Second.
All right, we are adjourned at 8:50. Is that right?
I have a new facility guy for you. If you want to
Yeah.
And he's awesome. Michael Taylor is his name.
Long